Welcome to Checkout Chatter, where we bring you the best recipes and culinary tips straight from Martin Supermarkets. I'm your host, Chef Britt, and I'm thrilled to be your guide on this delicious journey. I'm with Sandy and Jolene from Milk Means More today. And let's start first, just like an introduction.
Well, I'm Jolene. I work for Milk Means More, or United Dairy Industry of Michigan. We represent all of Michigan's 850 dairy farmers across our state. And my family also has a dairy farm. We're over on the west side of Michigan.
And I'm Sandy. I'm a registered dietitian. I'm also a board certified specialist in sports nutrition. So that's my passion, the reason I became a dietitian. But my role is primarily in educating healthcare professionals on the importance of dairy in the diet.
So for those that don't know, what exactly is Milk Means More?
Yeah, so we represent all of Michigan's dairy farmers. Dairy farmers are really busy. They're taking care of their animals and their land. They're in their individual communities. And what we do is we represent them and we talk to consumers. As Sandy mentioned, we talk to health professionals. We share the goodness of milk and cheese and yogurt and even ice cream too, right? Who doesn't love ice cream? So we are like their public relations organization. So we are talking to consumers. We're answering those questions. We're creating recipes and all that to show off dairy and all of its nutrients.
I love that. That's exciting. How does a farmer get involved in Milk Means More?
Yeah, so all of our dairy farmers contribute to United Dairy Industry of Michigan. They contribute by paying 15 cents for every 100 pounds of milk that they sell to a cooperative, which is somebody who then takes and pasteurizes their milk and bottles their milk and markets it on behalf of dairy farmers.
I love that. That's so awesome. So as you said, your family has a dairy farm. Yeah. So what in the life of a dairy farmer does that all entail?
Yeah. So my family has a dairy farm, as I mentioned, over on the west side of Michigan, and we're busy. I am lucky that I grew up on a farm. I love the cows. I love being outside. And I'm thankful that my parents and my brother take care of them every single day of the week, so I can just come in on weekends. But we care for our cows from the time that they're born. So my mom is taking care of the calves and raising them, making sure that they're getting the milk to drink so that they can grow into adult animals. My brother takes care of the heifers, which we call the teenagers, and make sure that they're well fed. He also oversees our crop growing, excuse me. So he oversees our crop growing, which means he is thinking about what crops we need to grow. So in Michigan, we grow a lot of corn and soybeans and alfalfa. They're actually getting ready right now. You know, it's nice out today. They're kind of antsy to get in the field and start planting those crops. And then my dad takes care of the adult cows, the milk cows. And milking cows is a really important job. It's where we're collecting the milk that those cows are producing. And so we're taking care of those cows. We're making sure that they have comfortable beds. They actually lay in sand bed, which is kind of like the beach. You know, we go and sit on the beach and it kind of conforms to our bodies.
Comfy cows,
yes. In the summertime, it's really cool, you know, if you dig down in that sand. So it's really a family effort. And we have a great team of employees, too, who help us care for those cows. But it's 365 days a year. It doesn't matter if it's 95 degrees out or negative 30.
So in the farm, what precautions are taken for, like, you know, nutrition and safety of the milk?
Yeah, that nutrition is such an important part. Like Sandy will talk about nutrition for people. And what I think a lot of people don't know is that we have a nutritionist for our dairy cows.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So we need to make sure that everything that we're providing them to eat is going to include all of the nutrients that cow needs. So we create what I like to call a cow casserole. So my brother has a big, giant mixer wagon where he's adding the corn silage and the hay and all those vitamins and minerals. And he's mixing it together so that when he feeds it, that cow has everything she needs. Oh. And that nutritionist will come to our farm every 3 weeks. They will take a sample of that cow casserole and test it to make sure it's still providing what we need it to provide the cows. And if it's not, then there's adjustments that will be made. They can either purchase some different feed or add some different things. But at the end of the day, it's all to make sure that cow is, as you said, comfy, but also well cared for, because dairy cows are metabolic marvels. They can enjoy and eat foods that we as humans can't. So I've mentioned corn for a couple times now, but cows can eat the entire corn plant.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so we eat the kernels, right?
Digest
yeah.
it.
And
Like,
digest
okay.
it,
Okay.
yeah. So when we are harvesting our corn, we're chopping up that entire corn plant.
Yeah.
So you've got the stalk and the leaves and the kernels and the cobs even. And every part of that corn plant offers nutrients for that cow. And she's eating something that we can't. We as humans can't. We also, can feed them different byproducts from different industries as well, like cottonseed.
Yeah.
So cotton's grown in the South. We take off that bowl of cotton, and then the seeds are left. So instead of that seed going to the landfill, cows can digest it,
that.
and it provides them fiber. So it's providing them all of these nutrients that they then turn into milk that we collect. And then, it has the 13 essential nutrients that I know Sandy will talk about.
Casserole.
Cow casserole.
I love that.
And kind of like thinking about human nutrition too. And Brittany, I know that you're also a mom, that cow comfort, the more comfortable they are, the more milk they're going to produce. And I can relate to that, like when I had my first daughter, becoming a new mom is really stressful. It's really hard. And even though I was nourishing my body, I couldn't produce enough milk for my daughter to eat and thrive and grow. So I supplemented, which is great, right? Fed is best, and that's all that matters. By the time my second daughter came around, I was a little bit more comfortable and confident in what I was doing, and I didn't need to supplement. So it's very similar to the way that our cows are treated. The happier they are, the more comfortable, the better that they are going to be able to nourish us.
I mean, stress and it can play like a huge factor.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very similar humans to cows. So keeping them comfortable. I mean, doesn't that sound like a life though for a cow? You get a sandy bed, you get cow casserole, you're grazing, you're just like living your best life.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we bring everything to the cows. And we even clean their pens for them. Like, wouldn't it be great to have someone just come in like 3 times a day and clean your house?
Sign me up. That would be great. So what are some of the challenges of dairy farming?
Yeah, the weather, here in Michigan and the Midwest, where a lot of your stores are located, it can be, it could be nice today and then we could get a snowstorm tomorrow. I don't want to jinx us, but that's real life. Yeah. And so our cows all live in barns, and that's to protect them from Mother Nature. Yeah. So if that snowstorm or ice storm does come, they're not having to deal with that. Right. They're not having to protect themselves. We've already kept them protected. Yes. And same thing with that sun. We don't want our cows to get sunburnt either.
Cows can get sunburnt.
They can.
Okay.
So we want to keep that sun off them. Yeah. We also have fans in our barn so that in those hot days, and our fans turn on automatically. We use technology, and so awesome. Automatically it comes on at 65 degrees, just to keep that air flowing over top of them. Yeah. And then we have barn curtains and doors that we can close. So weather is always a challenge. On our farms, we also have, we need to have a team of people available. And so just like all other businesses, we sometimes struggle with labor as well. So, and dairy farming, it's a lot of hands-on work. But at the end of the day, it's rewarding because you've played an important part in getting food to us.
And labor and dairy farming. I mean, just like you said, with the weather being a challenge, that's a challenge in labor too, because who wants to go work out in that weather sometimes? So I'm sure that's difficult, but again, very rewarding though to be that person.
Yes. And then we also deal with a lot of inflation like we do in our everyday lives as consumers as well. And so, and when you're a small business owner, you have to think about insurance and, and even having the network of people. We like to say our farm team are those people who work directly on the farm with us every day. And it extends out. So we have a veterinarian and we have a nutritionist. We need a plumber and electrician on hand as well.
Yeah.
We need this whole community to come and support us as well.
That's a lot. A lot of hands go into that glass of milk.
Yeah.
Like, isn't that crazy to think about? Like, so much. When it comes to an adult and a child, how much milk or dairy do they actually need to consume?
So ages 9 and up, you need 3 servings a day is the recommendation. Between, like 1 and 8, it's a little bit less, about 2.5 cups. Okay. But unfortunately, about 90% of Americans aren't meeting those recommendations. So the 13 essential nutrients that Jolene was talking about, they're missing out on some of those, right? So wherever we can add one one more serving, we're closing this gap of nutrition that people might be experiencing.
Do you see kids consuming more milk than adults now?
Yes. Particularly between probably 1 and 3, they are consuming those recommended servings, and it starts to kind of taper off. Particularly when we get into those teen years, when it's actually the most important time for people to be consuming dairy. That's when your bones are growing at the fastest rate that they ever will. And I like to think of it as like a bone bank account, right? So the more we can save when we're young, the better that it's going to serve us on into our life. So one of my coworkers likes to say that osteoporosis is a geriatric disease with a pediatric onset. So we need to think long term, save up that bone bank so that we can benefit from it when we're older.
So my Gracie girl, she is 5, almost 6, and she is our milk drinker. That girl would drink a gallon of milk a day, I think, if I let her. She loves, and I've tried, like, just the cousins are over, we're having, outdoor gathering or something, here's juice. And she's like, that's okay. Like, she'll drink a little bit, but she just loves her, like, water and white milk. Like, I've even tried the chocolate milk and stuff like that, and no, she loves her milk. So I'm like, as a mom, okay, you go ahead.
And I have one just like that who's also 5, and I think it's great, right? You're setting those habits when they're young, and hopefully that will carry throughout their whole life.
Definitely, yeah. I know I struggle, and I probably need to. I love cheeses and sour cream and different things, but just having a glass of milk, like I need to personally be better at that too, to get my dairy consumption.
And think about how you're preparing it, right? It doesn't need to just be a glass of milk. So I have multiple lattes that I make at home every day, right? So I'm probably getting a couple servings just from that. So think about it. What is it going into other things that you're consuming? It doesn't just have to be that glass of milk.
So I can tell my dad it was okay as a kid. He would take this big cup and fill it all up with Oreos and then put milk over the top of it and just eat it with a spoon. So I can tell him it's okay. You were getting your dairy.
And you have to think about it like food. You should enjoy your food. I'm a dietitian. I'm not the food police, right? Like, enjoy your Oreos with your milk. Definitely. I love that.
So when it comes to bone health, which you touched on, does that affect it also by like activity level of a person and how much dairy they need to consume?
Such a good question. If you're meeting those recommendations, the 3 servings a day, it shouldn't impact your bone health. And actually, weight-bearing exercise actually helps to strengthen your bones. So that's a really great thing. But if you're not consuming those 3 servings, it can put you at risk of, bone breaks, bone fractures. And nobody, high school athletes, younger athletes, you don't want to be on the injured list. That's not where we want to be, right? So that proactive approach that we can take, and it's a pretty simple thing to do.
So I have to ask, chocolate milk.
Yes.
There's this overview of chocolate milk and there's so much sugar and this and that. I mean, like, it's still a serving of calcium.
Sure is. And so much more too. Yeah. So I like to think about it like serving vegetables with ranch dressing, right? So you're getting a little bit more of that flavor enhancement and enjoyability and still getting those nutrients. Same thing with chocolate milk, right? You're still getting the 13 essential nutrients that you need.
Very true.
And I have a 7-year-old who does love chocolate milk, right? And she selects that with her meals at school. And again, you're closing that nutrient gap by giving them that extra serving of dairy with a little bit of extra sugar.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Sometimes we need that little extra sugar.
Always. Yes. Again, it's about enjoying your food. And then thinking about going back to the athletes, chocolate milk has a lot of studies behind it that it's a great recovery drink for athletes. So post-exercise, not to get too sciencey, but the ratio of carbohydrates to protein is ideal for refueling muscles.
So if you do have a child, adult, somebody that doesn't necessarily love to consume milk, what would be your other recommendations to be able to get that dairy intake?
Absolutely. Cheese, yogurt, cottage cheese is so popular right now.
There's
It's
this
having a
trend
day.
happening.
Right. Yeah. And it's that extra protein. People are really trying to increase the protein they have in their diet. Cooking it into foods, right? It doesn't just have to be, a cup of yogurt, a slice of cheese, a glass of milk. It can be consumed in many different forms.
And we like to say that there's something in the dairy case for everyone. So there are a lot of new flavors of cheeses and yogurts. And we think about like the drinkable yogurts now too. So great for on the go if if there's a busy student or adult who is wanting to fit it back in their lives. But even the cottage cheese that we were just talking about with that trend, adding things to that cottage cheese, like the fruits are making it savory. But there's a lot of new options, and we're really excited about those.
Cottage cheese is huge right now. I actually use it in a recipe that I make every week. So my whole family really loves egg bites, but the one place, if you get egg bites, they're a little pricey. So we had to come up with, our version of an egg bite. So I just use like a muffin tin, but I use my bullet and I use about a full cup of cottage cheese, puree that, add my eggs, and then that's kind of my base for the egg bites. So
Love
you're
that.
getting the cottage cheese, but then it also gives it that great kind of like texture as well. So in our egg bites too, it's like great because you can kind of like clean out the fridge. Like what veggies do we need to use? What proteins? What this? Because you can really put anything into an egg bite.
Absolutely.
And then you just pop them in the oven, and then you got egg bites for the week. So the cottage cheese though is definitely what helps give it that texture. So
And then you're getting some more veggies too.
Right.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I love that.
yeah, so they're great. Just like put in the fridge, and then we put a bag in the freezer. So we just kind of rotate the freezer back to the fridge when we're running low, and it's great too, especially as a mom, grab and go in the morning because we know mornings can get hectic. One of my children, like they didn't really like it when they were younger very much, and now that they're older, they're consuming it more than before. So I think another important is like having kids try stuff more than once.
100%.
For sure. So what are some of the other things that you guys kind of incorporate in your household with dairy and recipes and different things like that?
I honestly put it in just about everything. When I'm cooking, putting it on top of things, mixing cheese into different dishes that I make. I love making, like Mexican inspired foods with a little bit of cheese. My favorite thing to do is I love sour cream, nothing against sour cream. But again, trying to get a little bit more protein in the diet, I have replaced my sour cream with plain Greek yogurt, and you can't tell the difference. So that's, some of those little simple swaps to get a little bit more nutrition.
That's a great idea, especially like tacos and things like that, to just replace it with that. And so what would be some of your tips to families that are trying to incorporate more dairy, very busy lives and things like that?
There's a lot of options that you can kind of grab and go, right? So they make some shelf-stable options, like yogurt pouches, things like that. So you can toss them in, not have to worry about refrigeration. But I love me a good cheese stick, right? Grab a cheese stick as you're running out the door. First thing in the morning, again, things get really hectic. Just having things available that are easy to grab, I think is, in my household, is the easiest option.
Definitely. So when milk, you buy it at the store, you bring it home, and there's that date on there. That's like, you should use it by. Do you need to use it by that date? Like, what is that date? Where does that come from?
So that date is actually the sell-by date for the store.
Okay.
That's when they need to sell it by.
Okay.
Milk can last in our refrigerator if it's kept cold, if it's kept in the back of our refrigerator. It can last for a couple weeks after that date.
Okay.
So, when we grab the milk at the store, we want to make sure that that's the last thing that we put into our carts. Okay. And then we want to make sure we go home right away. We don't stop at the bank and at, the drugstore and all those other places. We want to make sure that we're getting home, putting it in the refrigerator. And I know some refrigerators have that milk shelf in the door.
Mine does.
Yes. When we think about it, like we're opening the doors how many times? And your kids are opening the doors how many times, right? And so it's letting that warm air touch that container of milk. And so if we can keep it as far back as possible, that's really going to extend the shelf life. And the other thing is when we need to use it, just pulling it out to use it very quickly, not having it sit on the countertop or on the kitchen table. But if we can keep that, very minimal, those exposures to that heat in our houses, that will help extend that shelf life of milk.
Those are great. And I'm guilty of all of those things. So I need to be better about them. And yeah, I guess I didn't think. I mean, we always has that spot in the door.
Yeah.
I put it in there, but it does open. I mean, especially my 11-year-old, he tends to look in there very often. I'm like, it hasn't changed. It's still the same thing that was in there 10 minutes ago. How do you actually know then I should not consume this milk any longer?
So the thing that we like to say is just smell the milk.
Okay.
If it's got a different smell, then that's when it is. But milk, because of pasteurization, that really does help extend that shelf life. And then those tips that we can keep it cold for longer are really going to help as well.
So the smell is just the biggest thing. Once you kind of get any little inkling, then okay. Well, thank you guys so much for coming and talking. We learned everything dairy farming. Milk means more. I really appreciate it, and I hope we can get together again soon.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for tuning in to Checkout Chatter. Please subscribe, comment, and leave a review. Don't forget to visit Martin Supermarket's websites for products and resources mentioned in this episode. Until next time, happy cooking.